My name is Celia. I am 68 years old, and for 40 of those years I have poured my love into every corner of the Victorian house on Maple Lane. This was not just a building. It was the home where my daughter Claire took her first steps. It was where my husband Arthur planted the rose garden that still stubbornly blooms every spring. After he passed this house, held me. Its familiar creaks were company. Its rooms filled with the quiet of a life fully lived. I had settled into a peaceful rhythm, content with my books, my garden, and the occasional visit from Claire. I thought that rhythm would carry me through my remaining years, surrounded by the warmth of memory. I was wrong. The fracture came not with a shout, but with a whisper I was never meant to hear on Thanksgiving night. Before I share the words that shattered my peace, I want to know about the space you are in right now. Does it feel safe, truly and completely yours? If you have ever felt that sense of sanctuary tremble, you might understand the quiet storm that followed. Please tell me in the comments where you are listening from. And if you would like to follow the journey of a woman who discovered that her greatest strength was a silent, steadfast resolve, I invite you to subscribe. The words came from the living room, low and confident in the dark. My son-in-law, David. He thought I was upstairs asleep. I had come down for a glass of water, drawn by the faint murmur. I stopped hidden in the shadow of the hallway. Yeah, Dad, it's all under control. The paperwork is just a formality. She's getting more frail whether she admits it or not. Once she's settled into that assisted living facility, we toured the one with the nice common areas. It's a done deal. This house is actually perfect for you and Mom. More space, one floor, living with the den. Claire is on board. She just needs a little more time to get Celia used to the idea. She feels guilty, you know how she is. But Thanksgiving is the perfect soft launch. You and Mom can come over, see the place, start talking about the future. She will see it as family gathering. We will frame it as what is best for everyone. My hand gripped the doorframe. The wood felt suddenly icy. Assisted living facility. Soft launch, a done deal. The air left my lungs in a silent rush. I felt a cold, sharp clarity cut through me. This was not a spontaneous idea. This was a campaign. And my own daughter, my Claire, was, as he put it, on board. The pain was a physical thing, a weight in my chest. I stood there in the dark, listening to the man I had welcomed into my family plan my exile with the cool efficiency of a corporate takeover. I crept back upstairs, the glass of water forgotten. I did not sleep. I stared at the ceiling. Arthur's absence, a profound ache beside me. I needed his calm counsel. All I had was the echo of David's betrayal and the terrifying silence from Claire. The next day, Thanksgiving was a performance. I moved through it like an actor in a play written by someone else. The house smelled of roasting turkey and pine. Claire bustled in the kitchen, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. David was all charm, carving the bird, telling stories, his hand lingering on Claire's shoulder, possessively. His parents, Gordon and Sylvia, arrived. Gordon, a large man with a voice that filled rooms immediately, commented on the draft from the old windows. Sylvia, thin and sharp-eyed, admired my china cabinet while subtly noting how much simpler life would be in a modern maintenance-free condo. David seamlessly steered the conversation. You know, Celia, this house is a lot for one person. Those stairs are no joke. We worry about you. Claire shot him a look, a flicker of something unreadable, then looked down at her plate. Sylvia chimed in. Oh, we have friends at Sunnyside Meadows. Such lovely activities. You would never be lonely. They nodded at each other, a unified front. I simply passed the sweet potatoes and said, How interesting. I let the words hang. I watched them. I saw David's satisfaction. Gordon's appraisal of the crown, molding Sylvia's mental redecorating. And I saw Claire, my bright creative girl, shrinking into her chair. Later, as we washed dishes, steam fogging the window over the sink, I could not hold back. "Claire, honey, what is all this talk about assisted living?" She would not meet my gaze, scrubbing a plate with fierce concentration. "It's just," David thinks, "we all think. It's something to consider for the future, for your safety." Her voice was small, and having his parents closer. "They are getting older too. Mom, it makes sense for family to help." "Family?" I turned to face her, my hands dripping. "Does it make sense to help family by sending me away?" Claire's eyes filled with tears. "It's not like that. It's a beautiful place. We would visit all the time. It would just be easier, that word, easier, for whom?" The question hung between us, heavy and wet. She did not answer. She just hugged me, her body stiff. "I love you, Mom. Please don't be upset." The hug felt like a goodbye she did not have the courage to say aloud. That night, as their car pulled away, I stood at my front door. The warmth of the house felt like a lie. The familiar walls seemed to whisper of impending loss. But deep beneath the hurt, something else stirred, a quiet, solid anger. They thought I was a problem to be solved, an object to be relocated. They had planned my future without me. I decided then that I would plan my own. My first stop Monday morning was the office of Lawrence Henderson. He had been Arthur's friend and our family lawyer for decades. His office smelled of old books and lemon wood polish, a scent of enduring stability. I laid it out plainly, my voice surprisingly steady. Lawrence listened, his gnarled hands steepled. When I finished, he sighed a sound of deep sadness. "Celia, I am so sorry. Legally, the house is yours free and clear. Claire has no claim unless you add her to the deed or will it to her. What they are suggesting, pressuring you into a decision for their benefit, is morally reprehensible, but the law protects your right to say no." He leaned forward. "But saying no loudly might only create more drama. They may try to declare you incompetent. It is a nasty road." "What is the alternative?" I asked. He tented his fingers. "You sell. On your terms. Quickly and quietly. I know a reputable investment firm that buys properties for cash as is. They offer slightly under market value for speed and certainty. You could have the money in your account in 2 weeks. We can structure it so you have a period of occupancy after closing to make arrangements." A grim smile touched his lips. It would certainly rearrange their plans. I felt a tremor in my hands, not from fear, but from the magnitude of the decision. Selling this house felt like selling a piece of my soul, but letting them take it felt like a betrayal of Arthur, of myself, of every memory we built here. I thought of David's smug voice on the phone, a done deal. I looked Lawrence in the eye. Do it. The next phase was the performance. I began to play the part they had written for me. When David called to check in, I let my voice sound tired. "Oh, that gutter is leaking again. The lawn service is so expensive. It is a lot. You were right." I could hear the barely concealed triumph in his, "Oh, really?" He started sending me links to retirement community websites. I would call him back, my voice hesitant. "This one looks nice, but the kitchen seems so small. Do they allow pets?" I was feeding his conviction, letting him believe his persuasion was working. His parents became more brazen. They started visiting for Sunday coffee, which turned into tours. Gordon would tap the walls talking about insulation. Sylvia would say things like, "This formal dining room is wasted space. We could make this a lovely main floor primary suite." Once I caught her looking in my bedroom closet, measuring it with her eyes. I just smiled and offered more coffee. Let them dream. Let them get comfortable. The more certain they were of their victory, the more careless they would become. Privately, I was a flurry of quiet activity. I began the heartbreaking work of sorting a lifetime. Not the furniture, not the everyday things, but the irreplaceable. Arthur's letters from before we were married. Claire's childhood drawings, my mother's porcelain teacups. I purchased storage tubs and over several nights packed them carefully. I rented a small climate-controlled storage unit across town under a different name, paying in cash for 6 months. Late one night, I called my dearest friend Eleanor my neighbor for 30 years. I told her everything. Her rage on my behalf was a warm comfort. "You brilliant, fierce woman," she whispered. "What can I do?" I asked her to be my lookout, to tell me if she saw David or his parents poking around when I was not home. I gave her a key to the storage unit just in case. Then I went online. I thought of a place Arthur and I had talked about retiring to, a small coastal town in Oregon called Seabrook. We had gone there once long ago and loved the wild, lonely beauty of it. I found a rental listing for a small cedar shingled cottage a block from the beach. It was furnished available for a monthly lease. It looked bare and lonely in the pictures, just a sofa, a bed, a table. It looked like freedom. I booked it for 6 months, starting in 5 weeks. The timeline was set. The charade reached its peak one evening in early December. David and Claire came over, and David asked with theatrical gravity if Gordon and Sylvia could join us for a serious family discussion. My heart hammered, but my face was calm. "Of course," I said. They arrived, Sylvia clutching a folder. We sat in my living room, the very room where David had planned my removal. David took center stage. "Celia, we love you. We only want what is best for you and for the whole family." He spoke slowly, as if to a child. "Mom and Dad are looking to downsize. Their house is too much for them. We have found a wonderful supportive community for you, Sunnyside Meadows. It's top-rated. The funds from the sale of their home would cover your stay there comfortably, and it would allow Mom and Dad to move in here to keep the house in the family, to be close to help you when you need it. It is a perfect circle, a win-win." He spread his hands, beaming. Gordon nodded gruffly. Sylvia opened her folder, showing glossy brochures of smiling seniors playing bingo. "See arts and crafts, a swimming pool." Claire sat beside him, her hands clasped tightly in her lap, her knuckles white. She would not look at me. I let the silence stretch. I looked at each of their expectant faces. David so sure of his clever deal-making. Gordon already mentally moving his recliner in. Sylvia, her eyes calculating the square footage. And Claire, my daughter, lost somewhere inside herself. I took a deep, slow breath, and then I did what they least expected. I smiled. A soft, gentle smile. I let my shoulders relax as if in surrender. "My goodness," I said, my voice a quiet marvel. "You have all put so much thought into this. You have really planned everything out." I reached for a brochure, pretended to study it. It does look comprehensive. David's face lit up with unguarded victory. He leaned over and patted my knee. "See, we knew you would come around. It is for the best. We are family." Family. I echoed the word, tasting like ash. I just need a little time to process it all. It is a big change. "Take all the time you need," Sylvia said briskly. "But we can start planning the move. Our realtor says our house will sell fast in this market. We should start packing non-essentials." Over the next few weeks, my home became a staging ground for their invasion. Sylvia brought paint swatches, rejuvenating cream, for the living room. Coastal fog for the bedroom they had designated as theirs. Gordon brought a contractor friend to give an estimate on converting the den into a master bathroom. They brought boxes and began storing them in my garage, labeled Sylvia, Kitchen and Gordon, Study. They offered to start packing up my knickknacks to declutter for showings. I let them. I watched as they handled my things with a casual ownership that made my blood run cold, but my smile never wavered. Meanwhile, in Mr. Henderson's office, I signed a mountain of papers. The sale price was fair, considering the quick close. The representative from the investment firm, a polite young woman named Anya, was efficient and asked no personal questions. The closing date was set for January 15th. I would have 45 days of free occupancy after that to vacate. The funds would be wired directly to a new account I had opened, separate from everything. On the day I signed the final deed, I felt a profound detachment. The house was already slipping from me, but I was not losing it. I was letting it go on my terms. The day after the sale was finalized, I received a call from David. His voice was jubilant. "Great news! Celia Mum and Dad got a full-price cash offer on their house. Closing is in 3 weeks. Looks like everything is falling into place perfectly." I could hear Sylvia cheering in the background. I held the phone away from my ear for a second, composing myself. "That is wonderful news, David," I said, my voice sweet as pie. "Everything is certainly falling into place." With the clock ticking, my private preparations intensified. I booked a one-way ticket to Portland, Oregon, and a rental car from there to Seabrook. I contacted a small discreet moving company that specialized in senior relocations. I did not tell them the whole story, only that I was moving to a small cottage and needed a minimal amount of furniture shipped. I selected a few pieces Arthur had built, himself a solid oak desk, a rocking chair. The rest could stay with the house. The movers would come the day after the final confrontation, a detail only I and Mr. Henderson knew. One rainy afternoon, I methodically went through my address book, transferring essential contacts to my phone. I updated my mailing address to a P.O. box in Seabrook with the post office. I visited my bank in person and arranged for all automatic payments to be switched to the new account. I was erasing Celia of Maple Lane brick by digital brick. It was terrifying and exhilarating. The hardest part was the garden. Arthur's roses were dormant, just thorny sticks in the winter earth. I went out and pruned them one last time, my hands remembering his guidance. "I am sorry, my loves," I whispered to them. "I hope the new owners let you be." I took a single cutting from his favorite, a deep red Mr. Lincoln, and wrapped it in damp paper towel, hoping to propagate it in my new place, if such a thing was possible. It felt like a smuggled hope. My final meeting with Elena was over tea in her cozy kitchen. I gave her a sealed envelope. "This has the keys to the storage unit. The contact for the movers and the address of the cottage," I said. "If anything goes wrong, if they try anything—" "They won't," she said firmly, gripping my hand. "You have outmaneuvered them at every turn, Celia. I am so proud of you, but are you sure this is a huge leap?" I looked out her window at the silhouette of my house. "I am not sure of anything, Elena, except that staying would be a slow death. Leaving is a leap, but at least it is towards something I chose." She hugged me tight, and we both cried a little for the end of an era. The night before, Gordon and Sylvia were to officially move their belongings in. I walked through every room of my house. I did not just see the furniture or the wallpaper. I saw the ghost of Claire learning to ride a bike in the hallway. I saw Arthur reading by the fireplace. I saw countless Christmases, quiet breakfasts, storms weathered. The grief was oceanic. I sat on the stairs and let it wash over me. This was not just a house. It was my museum, my archive. Letting it go felt like a profound amputation. But the alternative, letting it be taken, defiled by their entitlement, and Claire's complicit silence, felt like a betrayal of every love that had lived within these walls. The grief solidified into resolve, hard and diamond sharp. I was ready. The day arrived cold and bright. A large rental truck was parked in my driveway by 9 a.m. Gordon and David were hauling furniture out of it, a large leather sofa, a china hutch, rolled up rugs. Sylvia directed traffic from the porch clipboard in hand. "No Gordon. The hutch goes against the far wall." We measured. Claire was there too, carrying boxes of kitchenware, her face pale and drawn. I watched from the front window, my small suitcase already packed and hidden in the hall closet. I made myself a cup of tea and waited. The performance was almost over. By midday, my garage was full of their belongings, and they had moved several larger pieces into the living room, shoving my furniture aside. The sense of violation was complete. They broke for lunch, ordering pizza, and spreading out in my kitchen, laughing, celebrating. "This is going to be great, Dad," David said, clinking his soda can against Gordon's. "So much more room than your old place." Sylvia sighed contentedly, looking around. "We will finally have a home worthy of hosting the family holidays. It just needs our personal touch." It was then that a sleek silver sedan pulled up behind the moving truck. A young woman in a smart pantsuit got out carrying a tablet. She walked purposefully up to the front door and knocked. David, assuming she was another contractor or delivery, opened it with a smile. "Can I help you?" "Yes." "Hello," the woman said pleasantly. "My name is Anya Chen. I am with Coastal Asset Management. I am here for the pre-vacancy walkthrough of the property." David's smile faltered. "I'm sorry, the what?" "This is my mother-in-law's home. We're just helping with some moving." Anya's expression remained professionally polite. "I am aware of the occupancy situation. The property was sold to my firm by the owner, Celia Finnegan, with a 45-day post-close occupancy agreement. I am here to document the condition before her vacation period begins." She looked past him at the unfamiliar furniture in the living room. "It appears the occupancy terms may already be in question." The kitchen went silent. All eyes turned to me. I set my teacup down calmly on the counter. The sound was delicate, definitive. I walked to the front hall where my suitcase now sat by the door. I reached into my purse and pulled out a manila envelope. David's face was a mask of confusion, rapidly melting into dawning horror. "Celia, what is this? What is she talking about, sold?" I handed him the envelope. "I sold the house, David. 3 weeks ago. The closing was on the 15th. This is a copy of the executed deed. The new owners," I said, nodding to Anya, "have graciously allowed me to stay until the end of the month. But that privilege does not extend to subletters or to moving in new furniture. You have 48 hours to remove all of this from their property." The uproar was instant. Gordon roared, turning purple. "You did what?" Sylvia shrieked, the clipboard clattering to the floor. "You deceitful old woman! This is our home!" David tore open the envelope, his eyes scanning the documents. His face blanched. This can't be. You can't." He looked at me, his eyes wide with a fury so pure it was almost fascinating. "You crazy bitch! You have no right! We had a plan. This is for family." I stood very straight. "You had a plan, David. You had a plan to dispose of me and take my home for your parents. You never asked for my plan. You just assumed I would follow yours. This," I said, gesturing to the paperwork, "is my plan. This is not deceit. This is consequence." Claire had not made a sound. She stood frozen by the kitchen table, a hand over her mouth. Now she found her voice a thin, broken thread. "Mom, why? How could you do this to us, to me? We are family." The pain of hearing that from her was the sharpest cut of all. I looked at my daughter, my heart cracking. A family does not conspire to send its elder away for convenience and real estate. Claire, a family talks. A family respects. You stopped being my family the moment you let him plan my future in a whisper. I love you. I will always love you. But I will not be collateral damage in your marriage. When you are ready to talk to me as your mother, and not as a problem your husband is solving, you know how to find me. I handed her a simple white card with my new email address and a phone number that would forward to a voicemail I could check remotely. I picked up my suitcase. Anya stepped aside politely. Sylvia was sobbing hysterically. Gordon was shouting about lawyers. David was on his phone, his voice a frantic, low snarl. I walked out of my front door down the steps I had painted myself 2 summers ago and did not look back. A taxi pre-ordered was waiting at the curb. I got in. The driver, a kindly older man, said airport. I took a deep, shuddering breath. Yes, please. As we pulled away, I allowed myself one glance in the side mirror. I saw David on the porch phone to his ear gesticulating wildly. I saw Claire sink down onto the steps, her head in her hands. And I saw the house, my beautiful, painful memory-soaked house, receding into the distance. It was over. The flight was a blur. The drive north from Portland to the coast was shrouded in a grey, drizzling mist that matched my internal landscape. I felt hollowed out a shell, moving on autopilot. It was dark when I arrived in Seabrook. The key was in a lockbox. The cottage was exactly as pictured, small, clean, impersonal. The only sound was the distant, rhythmic shush of the ocean. I set my suitcase down in the middle of the living room and sat on the stiff sofa. I did not cry. I just sat in the profound silence, listening to the sound of my own breath, of the waves, of nothing else. The first week was a lesson in existing. I learned the layout of the small grocery store. I bought a new coffee maker. I walked on the beach every day, the cold, salty wind scouring my face. The vast, indifferent Pacific was a comfort. My problems were so small against that horizon. The loneliness was a physical presence, but it was a quiet one. It was my loneliness, not one imposed by others. Elena called regularly. The reports from the home front were chaotic as expected. David had tried to contest the sale, but Mr. Henderson had been airtight. He threatened to sue for elder financial abuse, but his own recorded conversations and the paper trail of their planning worked against him. Gordon and Sylvia had to frantically rent a storage unit and an apartment their own house sale, forcing them into a cramped interim life. Their grand plan had spectacularly backfired. The marriage, Elena said delicately, is under tremendous strain. Claire moved out. She is staying with a friend. That news sent a fresh wave of sorrow through me. I had not wanted to break my daughter's life, but she had allowed hers to be used as a tool to break mine. The consequences were hers to navigate now. About a month in an email arrived from Claire. The subject line was simply Mum. My hands shook opening it. It was long, rambling, full of pain and confusion. She wrote about the pressure from David, his constant framing of it as the logical, loving choice. She wrote about her own fears of conflict, her desire to make everyone happy. She admitted she had been weak. She said she was in therapy. She said David refused to go. She ended with, "I am so sorry. I miss you. I do not know who I am without him telling me who I am." I read it a dozen times. The apology did not magically heal the wound, but it acknowledged the knife. That was a start. I wrote back a short, careful reply. "Thank you for writing. I am glad you are safe. I am here. I did not offer advice. I did not relitigate the past. I just left the door ever so slightly ajar." My own life began haltingly to take shape. I joined the local library and found they had a weekly book club for seniors. The first meeting I just listened. The second I offered a shy comment. The women were kind, asking no prying questions about my past. I started volunteering one morning a week at the nearby nature reserve, helping to maintain the trails. The physical work in the clean pine-scented air was healing. I bought a sketchbook and began to draw the gnarled driftwood, the swooping gulls. I was terrible at it, but it did not matter. One day I unpacked the box with Arthur's rocking chair. I placed it by the window overlooking the ocean. I sat in it, the old wood groaning familiarly. I looked out at the endless grey water and the sky. I felt a pang, not of desperate longing for the past, but a simple sweet missing. I could hold both that missing and the present stillness in the same hand. They did not cancel each other out, they just coexisted. Healing, I have learned, is not a straight line. It is more like the tides here. Some days the grief rolls in, strong and high, pulling the sand out from under my feet. I cry for Arthur, for the home we built for the daughter. I feel I have lost for the simplicity of my old life. Other days the water is calm, retreating, to reveal smooth, interesting stones. New, small joys, a good book, a conversation with a neighbor, the startling sight of a whale spouting on the horizon. I have not spoken to David or his parents. I hear through Eleanor that they are entangled in their own bitterness. That is their ocean to swim in. My energy is for my own shore. Claire and I email sometimes once a week, sometimes less. The conversations are surface level, the book she is reading the weather. It is fragile, but it is a thread. I have to believe that some threads, no matter how thin, are strong enough to hold a hope. The lesson this whole brutal year taught me is not about revenge. It is about sovereignty. For so long after Arthur died, I saw myself as a caretaker of a legacy, a guardian of a museum. I forgot I was still the living inhabitant of my own life. David's betrayal was a hideous gift in that it forced me to remember. My peace, my home, my choices, these are not commodities for my family to negotiate. They are the non-negotiable borders of myself. Letting go of the house was the hardest thing I have ever done. But in letting it go, I reclaimed everything else. I reclaimed my agency. I reclaimed my right to a quiet cup of tea in my own space, however small, without an undercurrent of manipulation. I reclaimed the freedom to be alone without being lonely. I sit on my small porch now, wrapped in a blanket. The air smells of salt and damp earth. I miss the scent of Arthur's roses. But I breathe deeper here. The cottage in Seabrook is not my forever home. It is my for now home. And for now is enough. It is a sentence I am writing for myself, one slow, quiet day at a time. Claire's path is her own to walk. Maybe our roads will converge again one day, maybe they will not. But my road is finally mine. The beautiful, painful memory-filled house on Maple Lane is gone. But me, Celia, I am, for the very first time in a long time, coming home. And that home has no address. It is simply the quiet, unshakable knowledge that I belong to myself. If my story resonated with you, if you have ever had to redraw a boundary with someone you love, I would be honored to hear about your experience in the comments below. Sharing our stories is how we learn we are not alone. If you found strength in this journey, please give this video a like. It lets me know these conversations matter. And if you would like to join me for more reflections on life resilience and finding your voice later in life, please consider subscribing and sharing this channel with someone who might need to hear it today. Thank you for listening, for being part of this space, and for honoring your own story. May you always find the courage to protect the peace that is rightfully yours.